So this session, we're extremely lucky at Resco because we have great speakers here. We have two gentlemen coming all the way from America to share their experience with Resco. And we have Jason here. You could hear Jason a little bit during the keynote. They're one of the first customers implementing Resco Inspections, and Jason was so nice that he agreed that he would share more details and actually the whole process, how they decide to implement Resco, what was the reason behind it, what were the expectations, and then the actual benefits, right? So he's so nice that he agreed to share that whole story with all of us today. And together with Jason, we have Jeremy. Jeremy is from a company called Higgins One, one of our really, really great partners. I know Jeremy personally since...
It's almost been 6 years, I think.
6 years, yeah. Jeremy's helping us to make projects and implementations of Resco technology successful in North America. And he's done a lot of projects together with his team. And he has 3 people here for the whole conference with us. So thank you for supporting Resco Next. And I let you take over and tell us a little bit more about what you do and how that project went.
Perfect. Okay, so the way we've divided up this presentation, obviously we'll spend minimal amount of time about us as a partner. I think it's more important that you hear from the customer about the project specifically. And the highlights and things of that nature. But we do have a deck here to help walk us through. If I'm in your seat, at least previously, what we always found beneficial were the Q&A aspects of this. So we're going to try to get to that quickly. But if there's questions throughout, don't hesitate to stop and interject. So I had this quote that I've read, and I believe it's quite true that people only learn when they are surprised. So our hope and takeaway from this is that there will be something in the project that is surprising. At least from our perspective, it's probably how we implemented inspections. But again, hopefully you guys will learn something from this. Quickly, background about Higgins One. We've been a partner since 2014. As Ivan said, that's when we picked up the phone and had our first introduction, so we have quite a bit of history with Resco. But our background as a company and the majority of our consultants come out of medical device. So we deal with a lot of highly regulated environments. We say that we're M&M experts for mobility and medical device and sometimes the chocolates. But specific to Resco, which is why we're all here, this gives you kind of an overview of the projects or customers that we have. So the green check boxes, obviously we're going to talk about at least the mobile sales and inspections here. But currently we're evaluating the platform, the mobile or the rapid application development platform that some of you have heard about, and the city smart services. We've got quite a few government contracts and bids that are out in place for us right now. Routes that we saw this morning was quite interesting, I think, with Guy. I don't know if he's in here, but we have quite a few customers, including you guys, that I think will be interested in that. The mobile or the rapid application development platform, as I said, we're coming out of the medical device space. We have our own CRM ERP that deals with lot tracking and traceability, which is a huge thing for regulated environments. And right now what we're doing is actively developing Resco for our mobile front end to that. I don't know if we have any medical device companies in the audience today, but the one, when we talk about Higgins One, contrary to popular belief, it's not me being the one. It's hopefully our ability to simplify complex technology. So that's really what our bread and butter is. Global customer base, and now I'll turn it over to Jason.
So thanks so much. Who we are as an organization, everyone knows the Toyota brand when we talk about retail automotive, so the cars you see on the street. However, there is another side of Toyota, and that really was the birth of Toyota in the manufacturing space. So Toyota actually started as a company around the automation of the loom. And from that is where we developed. We are certainly the #1 forklift in the world. However, we provide a number of material handling solutions outside of just forklifts, up to and including automation of workspaces and dark warehouses. So we do have both domestic and international customers. We operate, and when I say we, Southern States Toyota Lift is a 14-location network. We are owned by Toyota Material Handling as the parent company, but we have 14 locations throughout the Southeast. We have both a need for outside sales support, the mobility there, also service and technician support. And so both of those are really critical elements to our ability to be successful. We have specifically been around for just over 65 years and generate a little over $120 million in revenue as we wrap up this year. So the challenge for us, and specifically it was a challenge for me and my role with the organization, was we had taken on the initiative of Microsoft Dynamics deployment unsuccessfully for about 3 years prior to my arrival. Toyota Material Handling saw the need as a manufacturer to provide an ecosystem that was going to be robust enough across the dealer network, 65 dealerships across the country, across the dealer network that could really tie together what was going on from a sales standpoint, what was going on from a technician field service standpoint, and also the dealer business system. So Microsoft Dynamics was kind of the nucleus of that. Brought that into the organization, and it just wasn't sticking. The biggest reason it wasn't sticking was because the mobile platform wasn't working well. For us, offline capability is a non-negotiable. Needed an environment where we can have a person in a deep freezer or maybe out in a rural area where connectivity just is not always an option, but the ability to leverage the tools and the data had to be able to be in place. And so when I realized that the native Microsoft Dynamics platform didn't do that, I had to start looking around. And then I learned that Resco was the platform that the field service solution was built on. I thought, well, if it's good enough for Microsoft to use here, maybe there's an option for us to lay it on top of what we're trying to accomplish. And so reached out because I knew that I needed more than just a software. I needed a partner. And that's when I was able to identify Jeremy and his team over at Higgins One. So we had determined that Resco was the way forward, had some conversations with Jeremy, really determined that from a deployment standpoint for us, the partnership was going to be critical. I was not going to start treading into the water of development. I'll be the first one to say I'm oftentimes not the smartest person in the room, most of the time not, especially when Jeremy and his team are around. And I needed a solution that could go cross-platform, right? It had to be able to deploy in the iOS environment, the Droid environment, and Microsoft Surface, which is what our field sales staff utilizes. So I chose Resco really around these 3 core components. It was the mobility, the stability. They weren't experiencing the crash issues. We started off with Resco kind of off the shelf and then went to the subscriber version where we began the customization, and that last point of flexibility was really, really critical. We have a number of processes which are unique to us, and for better or for worse, we have to kind of work through those. And with Resco, I was able to see that we had the capability of going there. Jeremy did a great job of really kind of connecting the dots, learning about our business, identifying what was important to us, what tools we needed to be able to continue to utilize, and showing us how we can do that with the Resco environment.
So on this slide, what we wanted to do is obviously from the customer's perspective or eyes, and then from the partner side, for those of you that are in the room, maybe thinking about becoming partners with Resco. But for us, the differentiator is even on the customer side, is that offline capability. It's always been one that no one can compare to from a technology standpoint. Also the low code, maybe even no code, depending on your back end. Anything that you can't do inside of Woodford is quite nice because then we can open it up and do it for the most part, anything through the JavaScripting side. But if you've got an organization who, whether it's a large IT group or even no IT group, because of that flexibility of Woodford, Resco was a partner for us. That wasn't the case when we first met Ivan. We thought, based on our revenue stream, core competency, that this might be a one-off. But every year since we've been a partner, the Resco revenue has just continued to grow to where now we're marrying those two together, which is quite nice. the rapid application development, what we're talking about when we say that may be a little bit different from the Resco side, but you're able to, because we had this conversation, Jason and I, well, why don't we just build this application from scratch, a mobile app, right? And for us, it's always time and cost, right? Because sure, you could do that, and you could design it and build it from, whatever your creativity and imagination could come up with, but come back and see me in a year or two. And it'd be very expensive. So that's where Resco is a partner to us, sets themselves apart, even from Microsoft, if there's anyone in the room from Microsoft. But the history, you just saw this morning, there's a 20-year celebration that occurred, so it's not like these guys were going to be gone overnight. Even if you had never heard of them in the U.S., they have a history, they've been around, and the technology is obviously proven. But for me personally, and probably most of my guys would agree with this, the most important thing for us as to why we chose Resco are the people. I know, what was the number, 100 employees at this point? Probably when we engaged, it was still that 30-ish. But I can tell you there's not been a change for us. It's been the people that we've been in touch with. Paul has been fantastic. And of course, Ivan and your team. So we appreciate that. You want this one or?
Yeah. So why do we choose Higgins One as a partner? There's a few key points. So customer experience and user experience centric. As a customer, it was critically important for me to not have to redefine my space in order to continue to leverage the power that Resco was potentially able to deliver. Very responsive, and I think it's worth noting that the responsiveness that he displayed as a partner was a function of the responsiveness of the Resco team that was supporting him. There were several times where, I knew that Paul and Jeremy were in communication to support our initiatives. Certainly the Resco experience, and then this critical element of the CRM and the ERP knowledge, knowing that he had familiarity with a space that I was in that ultimately was going to have to be the path we would walk together.
I think we've touched on a few of those, maybe with the exception of the last one.
Yeah. So Kaizen, that is something for those of you who are familiar with the Toyota way. Kaizen, this concept of continuous improvement. There has been a tone of continuous improvement in the conversation with Jeremy and his team, in the solutions that we are developing. And it's really how we found our way from the field sales solution to the inspections as an opportunity. So for us, the value that we were able to receive, certainly you've heard me touch on this a couple of times, the stability was critical. This third point is not to be overshadowed from a customer standpoint. We were able to continue to focus on our core competency. From an adoption framework, one of the biggest challenges to get salespeople to adopt new software, especially a CRM, is it makes them change the way they do their business on a daily basis. And so for those of you who have experience working with salespeople who are being asked to take on a new CRM tool, allowing them to continue to run their businesses the way they run their businesses is hugely valuable in terms of really having that adoption that sticks instead of it being, a pretty song we sing at the company meetings that we're deploying new technology. And then this no excuses path to adoption. Every time I asked Jeremy, could we do something, he would say yes. Now, it would come with an invoice, and that's okay, but as it should, right? I mean, a valuable partner who is able to deliver on the promises is very, very important, and he's been able to do that all the way through. For us, when you talk about practically, how did it impact the business? So we had a 45% increase in process efficiency. This really came from, again, that stability, being able to know that what we were trying to gain in terms of insight from our salespeople and their pipeline and what was going on in the field, we immediately were able to see efficiencies in the sales process. We also had improved user adoption. Once the word got out that this CRM app, right, which was no longer the Microsoft solution, was actually stable, that they could find customer information, that they could be in a place where they had no connectivity and still be able to tap into our database. Word got out, it was easier to use, and then we saw more people leveraging it out in the field. And then this $350,000 a month in increased revenue actually came on the heels of deploying the inspections tool. And so we'll kind of talk about that in the next few slides, and I want to make sure we leave room for Q&A around inspections. But traditionally, we had this process which was Excel-based, and as we outline as we go forward, you'll see that, I mean, it created an efficiency for us that took what was oftentimes a 30-minute to an hour-long process per form down to about 4 minutes, and the output generated some efficiency for our wholesale department to be able to turn around and market more efficiently to their customer base. So we were generating about $50,000 a month in revenue from our wholesale side, and we were able to shoot that up to $400,000 a month, and we've been doing that for the better part of the year now.
Okay, so here's where we're going to kind of not shift gears, but going into the next discussion about the project around inspections. And this is the part that, you know, depending on your background and knowledge of what inspections can do through that application, maybe because we were one of the first, I think it was still technically in beta at that point. So when I said yes, we can. Yeah, I think it was more like yes, maybe we can do it. But anyway, we're using inspections here at Toyota slightly different. I would frame it up, if this is fair to say, as a replacement of paper documents, like you said, Excel spreadsheets. Certainly, we improved on the process side, but maybe not the traditional, you know, Otis elevator going through and then doing an inspection and trying to go that route. So that's where we probably implemented it somewhat different, but it's an equally effective way of going about it. So like, was it Andrew this morning or someone this morning said, oh, you have a puzzle and you build it this way. We built it a little bit different, but
yeah, totally. So it was like that was the best analogy that could have been delivered was Andrew's analogy of the puzzle. I was in a challenging spot. I think we had kind of hit a wall with adoption, and so we needed a value victory. I needed a way to show incremental value to the salespeople and efficiency to the sales process, and it was quickly becoming a conversation that, well, it's just a big brother tool, right? Managers just want to know what I'm doing in the field. This was the conversation from the field sales team. So they really wanted to know, what's in it for me? How is this going to help me? Show me how this will make my life better. And so I posed the conversation to Jeremy about the rest of our sales process and some areas where I knew we had challenges. And so some of these forms that we were doing very manually, doing on paper, a lot of which are done on paper. We had that Excel-based spreadsheet that I was talking to you about, but 99% of our sales process is still being done with pen and paper. And so we have these folders this thick that we turn in for every single order. So I was explaining the challenges, talking to him about the fact that we were looking at custom app development, which we went down that route. We spent a significant amount of money, certainly more than we have paid Jeremy so far. But this conversation of come back and see me in a year or two is spot on. About a year later, and probably just under $300,000 in development, we were stuck. Meanwhile, we were working, utilizing the inspections tool to create this inertia, and that's how we got to where we are today.
So one of the things, if you don't mind, I'll interject on this slide. What we looked at when we came back through with inspections, we also reevaluated the mobile CRM side. So one of the things that, we like to talk about all the great things, but one of the things that we didn't do well early on as a partner when we rolled out the mobile CRM side, and we're still working on this improvement, was we just basically took, because there's some negotiation, but we just took what these guys had from a data standpoint in their CRM in the cloud and just pushed that down to the mobile app. And for those of you who have been through this experience, usually doesn't end up well, especially when you're talking about a large data set. So those synchronization times take a lot longer than you would certainly like. So not only did we do improvements or rolling out of the inspection piece, we also took the time to reevaluate what we had set up on the mobile CRM to, again, help improve with that adoption rate when you're dealing with a sales team that, they're sales guys. So
they're sales guys. I gotta say.
So that's what the improved sync time that we're talking about, digitizing the manual forms. That's what I was telling you earlier. We're up to now about five or six forms that we're rolling out throughout their organization. And then, of course, expanding it back. Originally, what we were doing with the manual forms that we had implemented was just through the account. So we're expanding it now to the opportunity side as well. I think that's... Okay, so from the solution standpoint, we've talked about it a little bit. Again, the surprising aspect is how we implemented it in tandem with the Resco mobile piece, and again, replacing a total of 6 now Excel and paper-based PDF forms. I don't know if you want to, do you want to elaborate any more of the process piece of what we've done there, how they're using it, or do you want me to touch on that?
You can touch on it. I mean, I don't want to cannibalize the
Sure.
Q&A, so if they want to ask questions about the process,
Yep.
I'm more than happy to dive in there. But, I mean, I think the short answer is it took, several steps that were being done in a manual way and brought them into a digital environment.
This is our last slide, so now we can open it up to Q&A. We've got a couple hands in the back.
So can you talk a little bit about, and I won't ask you this question at the panel, can we talk a little bit about, your choice? Did you look at Power Platform, or are you looking at Power Platform, and will it do the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so at the time, Power Platform was less of an option, right? However, currently, Power Platform is a bit of a conversation nationally. So what's happening is there's a national initiative to develop a solution that is kind of a 360 environment. And so for some legal reasons, I can't tell you all the details, but there is a dealership-facing and a customer-facing solution that is in development right now. I don't have the most belief that it's going to cross the finish line we're looking for it to finish if it doesn't stand strongly on Resco as a backbone because of that offline capability. I don't know if you were in the session that was in here before lunch, and they talked about the asterisks. There's some asterisks, and I have to face the internal customer. I've got to face the people who have to face the customer, and the offline lack of capability is just a non-negotiable. Now, where will we be in a year or 2 or 3 or 4? Maybe there is that full non-asterisk offline capability. But until we can count on that offline capability to just be there with stability, no matter where we are, where the customer is, I'll wait till somebody else will be the beta group for that. I'll take inspections, but I'm not
Had
doing
enough
that.
beta.
Yes.
I have 2 questions. First of all, can you show us the solution?
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
How does it look like, how your example of an inspection looks like. And the
Yeah.
second thing is, it's a nice number, an increase of revenue you have. When did you roll out the inspection?
So that's a good question. We started inspections after last year's Resco Next, because when I was explaining the challenge we were facing, he said, I just saw at Resco Next this inspections tool. I don't know if it can do it, but let me do some digging. So if I do some thinking, I can figure it out, but it's been at least over a year.
Yeah, the last Resco Next was in November, so we're right at a year,
Yeah.
plus or minus. I know we had been eyeballing it prior to the conference, but certainly got more information there last year. So yeah, we're right at a year.
Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm more than happy to walk through my solution with you. I have it on me, and I can show you what the examples look like, and even show you kind of real time the amount of traffic of our people using it actively and it deploying. Yeah, by all means, that's important.
Perfect. The rollout, so you started a year ago, but the rollout, but when did you actually start using it? When did the user,
They were using it as early as probably 2 months after. I bet we probably were doing our first inspections reports in Q1 of last year, or this year. Man, time flies. What is it?
Right?
No, it had to have been last year.
Yeah, so what we originally did on the rollout of the overall project was just the mobile CRM, right? Just the traditional use case for Resco. Go to the conference, come back, hey, I think this is a possibility. We roll out for one of the 6 forms. What is it? Trade-in survey,
Yep.
I think, is the first document that we rolled out through inspections. And that's the one that probably went live plus or minus 2 months after that.
Okay, yeah. So if you figure essentially all of this year with the exception of the first 2 months. Yeah.
Any other? Yes?
What are your main use cases? Because when I'm thinking about Toyota, I always have the automotive industry in mind.
Yeah.
So is it the use cases in that area, or is it a different?
No, so the use case for us initially with the inspections tool was this process of, kind of similar to retail automotive, of the trade-in. So we have a customer who is purchasing industrial equipment. We show up to help provide them those solutions. They have some current equipment they want to get rid of. And so we take that in. We may offer them a flat buyout or a trade-in. So what was happening was we would have a salesperson who goes out to the customer. Customer number one, they take pictures of the equipment. They're writing down notes because they don't want to fire up their laptop to be able to utilize the Excel spreadsheet in front of the customer. They do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those. And at the end of the day, they come home. They plug in their phone to their computer. They have to take the photos. They have to sort the photos out. They would copy and paste them into an Excel spreadsheet, go back to their notes, type in the details of the forklift into this Excel spreadsheet, and then email that to the wholesale manager, who would then take that, pull a couple of photos out, post that to the wholesale auction network, and try and sell those. I mean, this like yeah, super efficient. And so and so that's part of why it was such a pain, but a necessary pain, right? Because we couldn't sell the customer new equipment without taking in their existing equipment, and we had to provide an aggressive trade value. Otherwise, our competition runs the opportunity of coming in and maybe just buying the deal with numbers that don't make sense. So we couldn't bury ourselves financially by inflating trade-in values that the wholesale market wouldn't support. So in came the inspections tool, and more than happy to walk through it with anybody at any point. Tap me on the shoulder throughout. But now, salesperson goes to see the customer. They pull out Resco. They go to the customer record. All of the customer information is already entered. And as they're going through the walk-around of the unit, they're just hitting the image, taking a picture, it saves it. So front, back, left, steer tire, steering wheel, they walk through that process. They're grading it along the way with pull-down menus. So now we don't have inconsistency of feedback. This person says, looks good. This person says, fair. This person says, take a look at it when you see it, right? So now it's good, fair, poor, percentage of usage on tires. It created a standardization of information. It outputs 2 PDFs. One PDF has all the customer information on it, which is internal for us. Another one has no customer information, but is branded with our info. Now, on the wholesale end, the wholesale manager gets both of those via email, slide, send, goes. They get both of those. The wholesale manager sends the one that doesn't have any customer information out to the auction network. We start getting live bids right away, fully merchandised piece of equipment. He's able to now provide a better, more accurate trade-in value to the salesperson, who then turns around and completes the deal with the customer. And that's where you saw this increase in revenue. Because both the salesperson and the wholesale manager have been able to move more efficiently, we're able to meet the market with information in a speed that just wasn't even real for us before. And so that's where we've accelerated our sales velocity on that end. Yeah. I'm sorry?
iPhone or Android?
I have iPhone. But we have salespeople who have Android and iPhone.
Would you be comfortable showing the app? I have an adapter or not?
Yeah, no, we can do it. Hey, it's you guys, not me. Live TV. What time does the next session start?
Yeah, how much?
2:05, so we
Okay.
Okay.
Got a few minutes.
Awesome, okay. It's my lovely fiance. Her name is Sarah. Thank you. So this is the home screen. As you see at the top, it says Inspect Dev. So I'm actually in the dev environment for the digitized solutions that we have added. So we have now taken what we did with the wholesale trade-in process and duplicated that for the site survey, which is required for every one of our deals. The credit application, rental request form, disposal form. There's like 2 other. Oh boy, that's me proposing to my fiance.
This is what we get with live demos.
And so
Has anyone got a forklift they need to get a quote on?
in the questionnaires, we have here, this is the draft one.
Yeah, you're running
There
the
we
dev.
go.
There you go.
Right, so I started it from scratch. If I was in a customer record, then obviously your customer information would populate. But now a salesperson is able to go through here, quickly enter in not today. Come through, pick tires. So you can imagine how this really standardizes the process and the information that we're getting on the other side. Come down here. Take a picture. Go through that process for the entirety of the equipment. And then the ability to edit and add that quoted value.
And on that other photos sections where they would, if there's multiple damages, I believe we don't, that's where we go through and just repeat. So depending on your knowledge of the inspections application, the ability to take photos multiple times if there's damages across the different forklifts was also valuable for you guys.
Yeah.
The pictures are loaded to Dynamics, or do you have an integration with SharePoint or storage?
No, so they're embedded in the actual PDF, right? So,
But
let's see.
they are stored in Dynamics on the notes on
Oh,
the back
sorry.
end. We're not using SharePoint for these guys.
Let
So
me
right now they're just
see
on the
if I
notes
can
and a
pull,
Notion.
So all the content, the pictures you have in the front end or whatsoever going into the notes,
Correct.
everything.
Yep. In Dynamics, yeah. And so what happens is when they close out the report, generate the two PDFs, obviously they're inside the PDF there that are getting emailed out.
Here we go. So I'll pull one up so you can see what the. So that's the PDF that gets generated. Details obviously in here, and then as you move through, the pictures for the equipment. And so this is the internal one that has the customer information on it. That's what lives with the deal, right? The sales order. And then there's the external one, which doesn't have any customer info because we don't want the wholesale network of buyers to, cut us out. So, so then we're able to leverage that and send that into our auction markets and get live bids real time. Oh, yep. Oh, that's a good one. Anything else? I have pictures of more of my engagement. You're interested? Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, any other questions?
So everything happens in Resco, the in report. So the report happens in mobile. Anything you do afterwards in Dynamics?
Not for this per se. However, as we deploy out some of the future forms that we will use, there will be more Dynamics integration, especially as we move more of our organization onto Dynamics. So right now, currently, it's our outside sales team, our aftermarket sales team, and our management team. We're putting our sales support people on so that as these forms start showing up for an existing opportunity, instead of them getting a folder, like a physical folder with paper, they're able to just go into Dynamics and pull the files down and then be able to move forward with the sales process there.
Other questions?
Well, hey, I will certainly be around. Let's stop this part. I'll be around. I was super excited to be here to be able to speak because I understand what it feels like to sit in the seat of a customer and wonder, can the promise get delivered on? Can we cross the finish line we're trying to cross? Having to deal with the challenges that very practically show up when you're dealing with the internal culture of an organization that isn't used to utilizing tools like this. So if there's any questions I can answer, more than happy to do it. And also to provide some insight on what it's like to work with the partner network. For me, there was no way we would have gotten this far without a partner we could depend on and an organization like Resco that backs them up. So
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.